It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The first college football playoff rankings came out Tuesday night, and the Vols are the number one team in the country, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson. They round out the top four. Michigan coming in at 5, Alabama at 6. This Saturday's matchup between Vols and Dogs will be a top 3 matchup in the playoff rankings. The Tennessee Titans have designated cornerback Elijah Molden to return from IR. They did that today, and it opens up a 21-day window where Molden can be put back on the active roster. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill spoke with media a few minutes ago, saying that it was more of the ankle than the illness that kept him out of Sunday's game against the Texans. Going to give it a go at practice this week as the Titans prepare for Sunday Night Football in Kansas City. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to you. Blaine and Mickey going to be here for the next couple of hours hanging out with you. A lot to get to. Titan stuff. Tannehill spoke already today. Mike Vrabel spoke, and he spoke about Tannehill. Neither one of them said too much. Ryan Tannehill is going to give it a go in practice today. That's basically the gist of what they said.
You think they're going to tweet out a video of individuals?
Well,
I'm getting all excited about it.
I want to see it.
Are they going to do that?
I want you to see it so you can tell me, like, oh, no, this is how it looks. Or, that looks good.
Did he explain any depth, like just a little bit? Like, is it a high ankle sprain, regular ankle sprain?
Nope.
Besides, he told us he missed the game because of the ankle sprain.
Yeah, that's it. He's not saying anything else.
Oh, man. But he did say he was going to do a little bit today.
Yep. That he did. And he got asked by John Glennon, did you miss because you were sick or because of your ankle? He goes, oh, no, it sucks to be sick, but I missed because of my ankle. He said, I'd play through being sick. So there were just some people questioned, but he got it straight from him.
It was just coincidental. It was, I think that's why, timing on Friday or whatever made you think, what? Was he going to play anyway? So, we shall see. I guess it's a positive sign in that he's saying he's going to do a little bit today, but it's always interesting with any injury, especially when you're talking about lower body. And this is a game of running for mostly the skill guys. Maybe an offensive lineman can get away with it a little bit, or defensive lineman. But the response his ankle and body has after practice today, going into tomorrow, you can test it out. Then it could maybe get a little worse or swell up a little bit, so it's not time yet. So it'll be interesting to see, or if he wakes up tomorrow and felt great all practice, then tomorrow is super sore. Maybe you don't see the swelling based off eye view. Sometimes it's within the joint, so sometimes you can't really see it. You only can feel it. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if it's just a regular ankle, high ankle. What I have no idea. So I'm hoping it's not a high ankle sprain, because that would make me think he probably wouldn't be trying to practice today, right? And he wouldn't have been walking as soon. Now, I know there's different levels of ankle sprains, especially when you're talking about high ankle sprain. I'm assuming then this one is at the lower level of severity then, if he thinks he's going to move around and practice a little bit today. And then he didn't wear a boot pretty much but one day or a couple days. And then, when he came out there on Wednesday. So I hope that's all signs pointing up, because we need all men on deck to go against the Chiefs.
At their place at night, man, that's going to be wild.
Oh, that is so fun.
It is going to be. You and me will be hanging out. We're watching this thing at Party Foul, right, in Cool Springs. People come down there and watch it with us.
Oh, we're going to be partying to the tardy at Party Foul.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But Lucas will not be with us. He will be. He's going to be in Kansas City.
I'm excited for my first Arrowhead experience.
Oh, man.
You in for a world of
When they sing the national anthem, I'm just telling you, just be ready, because something's going to happen at the end that you are not ready for.
Okay.
And when you are in the press box there, you can see like 15 states. You are 8 miles in the air. It is the highest press box ever. It is so nice, but you can see for miles around. And Blaine can tell you, because he played there.
I was not up in the press box.
He was not in the press box.
I have no idea.
But it is the coolest stadium the crowd is nuts. They have like all their Ring of Honor has like 63 people in it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so
There's
many.
a lot of history there.
A lot of history
Oh, yeah.
there, and they celebrate their history. But it is, where would you compare that to if you were in downtown Nashville and you drove to, because their stadium's not downtown. You'll stay downtown probably, but then you'll just start driving and you'll thinking, are we ever going to get there?
There's a lot of stadiums like that in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't like my stadiums like that.
There's so many. Like
Yeah,
in
I don't
Buffalo was way out of the way.
Yeah.
Washington's way out of the
don't
way.
like that.
Dallas, New England.
Man, I don't like any of that. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun little deal. That was probably my first outdoor experience as a rookie. That it kind of created what most of the fans here, like that SEC, that passion, the loudness of games at a pro stadium that was outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one, and it really got me on that national anthem there. I actually kind of jumped in. I got what I call lit at the time. I was like, what? Whoa! We about to go get them.
So it'll
Yeah.
be better than the anthem in Houston last week when there were approximately 12 people in the building at the start of the game.
I was counting. There were
Yes.
actually a little more than 12 people, but I get what you said. There was a lot of gaps, especially for them. They had blue seats for them, so you can't really
Yeah.
see who was missing. So I was really looking, even on the lower deck, and there was a lot of missing seats there.
There's such a wide range of atmospheres in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like Buffalo was insane.
Yeah.
Like an SEC type atmosphere where those people
Bills
live,
Mafia, they're
breathe,
different.
and they're different. But Indy and Houston were so sterile and quiet to me. I didn't
More
feel
business-like.
business-like. Yes, you felt like you were in an office setting.
Yeah.
Like just did not feel like a football
Don't get
game.
too loud in the office, You got to get out the office. So, that's not appropriate in the office.
And I'm sure when they're good, it's a different story. But man, it's just a sad atmosphere in Indy and Houston this season when we were there.
Well, think about the Colts. Everybody told them they were going to win the division again, and they're going to win nothing. They just fired the OC.
Who doesn't call plays?
See, this is why I don't coach. Right there. I don't call plays, and I get fired for the play calling?
Wait a second. What did I do?
Right.
Classic scapegoat firing.
Oh,
Man, I don't know if there is a scapegoat, but the dang old freaking head coach and the GM. And one of them is going to point the finger at each other. So I don't know about this one, man. I like Frank Reich and all, and I think he's solid. He's just not better than Vrabel. Sorry. And they just got your number. Yep. So it is what it is. But yeah, that goes on all the time. Just imagine we went to the Super Bowl. We let our offensive coordinator go.
That's
Have a
true.
Super Bowl season. We let our offensive coordinator go. Les Steckel. I thought that was weird. I was like, man, yeah, could we throw the ball more? But man, it wasn't his fault. We lost. We went to the Super Bowl. Why would we dismantle what we got going? Obviously, they knew what they were doing. They got Heimerdinger. That's what I'm saying. See, so it goes on. So that lets you know somebody's going to be at fault here, regardless. Good season, bad season, in the middle of the road. That goes on in the NFL. And I'm like, man, I had nothing to do with that loss. See, if I'm a coach, what?
were you guys? You mentioned that. Were you at that point? I was out of the media. I'd worked in TV. I'd moved to Nashville. I was trying to play music. I was just kind of dabbling freelance. And I remember people saying, they did what?
Yeah, I was stunned.
They fired Les Steckel? So even the players, you guys didn't see it coming.
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't know if there had been something in the locker room or something like that where you're
No,
like, oh,
there
man,
was
that dude's
nothing.
about to get fired.
No, there was nothing. Nothing. Now, that may be, throughout the season, but that's on both sides of the ball amongst coaching staffs or, nothing, nobody ever really comes to anything. Maybe even murmurs in the locker room, but we were winning, so it didn't really matter. Like, that goes on every year, But I was stunned. I felt like it was a successful season. You just didn't win the last game. You made it to the last game, and then to let somebody go, or I don't know if his contract was up or what, but yeah, that was a little odd for us. Because I think the coordinators are like the same with Vrabel. I think the coordinators are doing the best what they have and are doing what the head coaches asked them to do. I think that's what they're doing. I think both sides of the ball. I really do, especially on the offensive side. I mean, what are you supposed to do? This is all you can do, and I think Vrabel relishes it. I think he loves it. I think he loves just running the ball down people's throats and really taking their soul in a game. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, man. I am amazed. I'm trying to figure out, man, is this possible? Like, could they actually do this in the playoffs and go all the way to the Super Bowl?
You've been talking
And
about this.
I just don't know. They can do it in the regular season.
I know.
Maybe even in the first round. Maybe the first round, because you're not getting the elite teams are more well-rounded as far as their talent on their team. But after that first round, there's no way I can believe that that's going to work. I mean, man, if Derrick Henry runs us to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to pay him even more money. Derrick Henry, yeah, sorry. They're not going to leave too much money for Big Jeff.
Speaking of Big Jeff, did you see the article about Big Jeff on The Athletic? Y'all see that?
Yeah, I seen that. Is that how your son says it? He seen that.
He taked and maked. Like I taked that to my bedroom. I maked that. He taked it.
So he would have said, "I seed it."
I seed that, Dad.
I see that. Okay.
Again, this is one of those days we need to be on about 9 hours instead of 2 because we'll never get to all this stuff. But an article about Big Jeff on The Athletic, and Vols fans, I promise you, we will get to you because that's just, I mean, number one in the college football rankings, and there's the University of Tennessee put out all this stuff, like how long it's been since anything like this.
Oh, it was awesome.
I'll read through all this
Celebrate
later.
Be excited. But guess what? You want to be number one, not only now, but at the end. Right, Lucas?
Everything's still in front of them.
Yeah.
It's all out there. It is all there. Speaking of what's out there and what may not be out there, this is from the article on The Athletic.
Big Jeff.
Simmons says the Titans discussed his future with him in the offseason. And this is all in quotes.
Ooh.
It was, "We want you to be here, but we don't know exactly when we'll be able to pay you," he says. The Titans were like, we don't know if we're going to be able to offer you what you think you are worth. We want to pay you, but we don't know where it's going to come from. That's basically what it was, not an offer. This is quoted. This is all quotes from Large Jeff in this article.
It's time to go to break. I'm so distraught. I'm mad. Like, what? You don't have the money. The name billionaire. What are you? Don't ever phrase your mouth talking about you ain't got no money. What? Man, that I don't know if this is a form of negotiations.
I don't like it if it is.
But this sounds like we're going down that same freaking bumpy A-War road.
No, don't
like
say it.
Albert Hayesworth. Don't do it.
Oh, Albert.
Yeah, Albert. Yeah.
I thought you were about to go AJ on this deal.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Now, he's handled it. And Albert wasn't very vocal besides, hey, man, I want to get paid. And he went out there and balled out. And then we knew we were going to lose him at that point because then now everybody's on the market. Now, the difference between him, I think, Jeffrey Simmons has a motor. He didn't do it for just money. He's been doing this incrementally throughout his career, and you can see it happening now. He's just putting the skill with the effort, with the pass rush skills, and it's all come together. So it's a little different. So I would definitely give him the bag. I said this before. I would pay him over A.J. Brown. These guys in the trenches, they're special. They're a dime a dozen, and they got one, and they got it lucky. And what has their history been with most of the first-round picks? So that kind of lends to that. I'm just hoping I'm wrong. This is a guy that you got to give him. I don't know what he thinks he's worth. He's not going to get Aaron Donald $30 million. Let's just stop that now. So if he's asking for that, that's another story. But I think there's a big gap. I think he should be somewhere around the longer they waited, the higher the numbers going to get. I think he should be around 24, 25. He can't go over that. That's max. So maybe you give him next year. Maybe you guarantee him if he takes something less or whatever. But it's not a guy I'm trying to let go. And then if you franchise him and all those things, you're just really kicking the can down the road. That pains me to just hear that, to be honest. And, maybe it's just negotiation. That's what I'm going to take it because it's still early yet, and we don't know where we're going to get the money from.
I told you I would have broken all my precedent. I would have signed him before this year, before the number gets out of control.
Yeah, right.
I would have signed him
You
before
might have
this.
could have got it for 20.
Maybe you could have, or 21 or 22. All of it's
Yeah.
going to be a bargain now.
Yeah.
What you could, it's like the Albert deal. You and I have talked about this before.
They had him. He
People
would have
around
taken
me
the
told
deal.
me they were a couple million apart
Yeah,
at
they
one
were.
point.
Hey, Albert told me this.
Oh, and then you could have had Albert for like 3-4 more years, and even not 2008, Albert would have been fine for
Just
wrecking
what he was
shop.
doing, just like he did the year
Yes.
before that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that.
Yeah, I'm all sweaty.
Yeah, but Big Jeff he's built for greatness. This dude, yeah, he's a different cat.
All right, I'm going to take off this pullover. Now I'm all hot and bothered in here. Why don't we do this? John Brice is going to join us next. Let's get into some Vols discussion. Let's get into some college football discussion. Lots going on in the college football world. Opening at Auburn. Man, we got lots of rocks to turn over, and we'll do it all next with John Brice. Come on, Big Jeff.
That rock is heavy.
Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Opened up a little Titans talk, but let's go to some Vols and college football talk with our guy on the beat, John Brice from Football Scoop. JB, Vols #1 in this year's first college football playoff rankings. I will say this. From where this thing has come over the last couple of years, what a remarkable job so far by Josh Heupel, his staff, and his players.
Yeah, I mean, in the voting now for Coach of the Year, not just in the SEC, but anywhere in college football, it's got to be Josh Heupel. I don't care what happens the rest of the way, and certainly Tennessee has not done winning in large stages. But what Josh Heupel has done compared to what he inherited, and then how quickly his roster was further depleted by the transfer portal to where Tennessee sits now as the #1 team in college football in the inaugural CFP rankings, I think just really locks it up for Josh Heupel as Coach of the Year. I think he's got something in his contract that nets him a bonus if that happens. I know he's got some incentives for some other things bonus-wise that are out there. Not that he cares about that, but Josh Heupel's Coach of the Year, and he's about to get paid.
Once you saw the rankings come out, what was maybe the biggest surprise for you, not just Tennessee related, but totally related to the entirety of what you saw with the first rankings reveal?
I was probably a little surprised that Alabama was down at #6, and I was probably a little surprised that Georgia was #3. I thought that Tennessee and Georgia had a great chance to be 1 and 2. I know that Georgia maybe doesn't have some of the wider margins of victory. It struggled with Missouri, but certainly what it did to what is now a 1-loss Oregon team on a 7-game winning streak, and how handily it defeated a Florida team that obviously has a great win early this year against Utah. I thought it might be Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State. So I was a bit surprised by Georgia at 3, Clemson at 4, and Alabama at 6.
John Brice, our guest, at John D. Brice 1. That's his Twitter handle. You can follow him there or anywhere where you want to check out Football Scoop.
Well, John, since you mentioned Tennessee and Georgia, and that's where they play here, I'm just curious, do you think home field really matters in this game, or how much impact will it have on this game? Not only with the line, but just being at home and Tennessee being away.
Yeah, I think it's significant. I mean, we saw how much home field matters to Tennessee, specifically against Florida, and more so against Alabama, because I thought Tennessee was the clear-cut better team than Florida. But we saw how much home field mattered for Tennessee in Neyland Stadium a few weeks ago, and I think it's very significant. Look, I've talked to people in and around the Georgia program this week, and it's no joke. There are people that are very actively saying, don't sell your tickets. Don't sell your tickets to Tennessee fans. It's very similar to when we see Tennessee turn Vanderbilt into Neyland West, and you have some Vanderbilt fans that will just dig in and not sell their tickets and leave some empty spots in the stadium in order not to sell them to Tennessee fans. Well, there's not going to be any empty spots in Sanford Stadium, but there genuinely is a concerted effort to sell fewer tickets to Tennessee fans than ever before, and I think that's because Georgia's legitimately nervous about this game.
Well, give us your bold prediction, how you think it's going to play out.
I can't give you my full prediction yet because I have to wait and give it on the Football Scoop later in the week, but this is going to be a fourth-quarter game that anyone can win going into that fourth quarter. I'll say this. If Tennessee gets up 2 scores early, then I think Georgia's in for a really long day. This Georgia offense is just simply not constructed to come from behind, not from significant deficits. I know that they came behind from a modest deficit at Missouri, but, comparing Missouri's offense to Tennessee's offense is like comparing Wagyu to Golden Corral. You just don't do it. And so I think that if Tennessee gets up early, Tennessee has the chance to really run away from Georgia just because of the way that Georgia's offense is constructed. The flip side of that is Tennessee has to protect Hendon Hooker. I think that might be the single biggest key in the game is how well does Tennessee protect Hendon Hooker.
Well, you talked a little bit about the committee's rankings there with, CFP. I guess give us your top 5 as well as give us 5 guys, if you come up with 3 or 5 guys for the Heisman that you think should be on the list.
Yeah. I would have probably had Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State. I would put Alabama ahead of Clemson. I think Alabama is a much better team than Clemson, just to be honest with you. And then I would probably have Michigan next and then Clemson. Now, we'll see. I'll see Clemson in person this weekend. I'll be at that Notre Dame-Clemson game. I'm very intrigued to see that contest. But that would be the order of my rankings. I just think you can look at the rankings, and they're the rankings for right now. They emphasize that. These are the rankings through the games of Saturday, October 29th. But the job is to also look and see who do you think would win. I think Alabama would beat Clemson. I'm not sure it would be a 10-point game. I think it would be a comfortable win for Alabama. So I would have Alabama rated above Clemson. I think right now in the Heisman Trophy race that it's really about Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young, and then C.J. Stroud would be in that mix. And then beyond that, if they had won more, I really like Bijan Robinson at Texas, the running back. I think he's great. The Illinois running back who leads all of college football in rushing yards, yeah. I think should get a little more attention. Chase Brown, because of what he's done, and the fact that Illinois. Brett Bielema's got to be the runaway Big Ten Coach of the Year, the way that Josh Heupel needs to be the runaway SEC and National Coach of the Year. So those are that's how I would break down the Heisman race, and that's how I would personally have my CFP top 5, top 6 teams.
There you have it, John Brice from Football Scoop.
All right, JB, Kiffin, Freeze, prime time. Who's next to jump in that gauntlet at Auburn?
I think if Auburn hires one of those three, that the Tigers faithful and their administration are going to be really happy. I think that if I was handicapping that race, that vacancy, I would make it those three versus the field. We're going to hear some other names, but I'm quite confident in what we've been told, that there's some level of interest from all three of those candidates that you just mentioned. I don't think there's any secret whatsoever that Hugh Freeze really aches to be back in the SEC. And my personal opinion is Hugh Freeze deserves every opportunity to be back in the SEC. And all he's done is win at an incredibly high level everywhere he's been. I had somebody ask me the other day, who do I think Alabama would be most nervous by seeing there? And I think any of those three on different levels would make Alabama nervous. I think it would probably go in order of maybe 1A and 1B being Lane and Dion, and then 1C being Hugh Freeze. But I think any of those three has the potential to rattle the nerves a little bit at Alabama.
Real quick question to add to that. I'm not sure if this is true or not. Is the new AD, I think Cohen is his name, I think, right? Is he connected to Freeze at some point where he was an associate AD at Ole Miss when all that stuff went down?
I'd have to double check that, Blaine. I don't have his entire background right in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some people were trying to say that may hurt Freeze with all that was going on surrounding that whole fiasco, and that the AD that was just hired was on that administration at the time. I think he was associate AD. So, yeah. Let me know, and then just text me a little bit later. I just wanted to know if that was true or not. I hadn't looked it up myself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's accurate because I think Cohen's entire time was at Mississippi State. So I don't think he worked at Ole Miss.
Okay. All right, cool.
How hot is Dion's name just right now, period? Let's say Auburn goes somewhere else. I mean, he's got things rolling. Everybody in the world knows who he is. Everybody's mama and daddy. I mean, there's no place you could go to try to recruit that people would be excited to see him. How big is his name right now?
It's huge, Mickey. It's as large as any name in this cycle. I would argue the two biggest names in this cycle are Lane Kiffin and Coach Prime. And I just wrote this. I just published this. Lane just talked about it on the SEC teleconference an hour ago. But he really just outlined exactly why, whether it's Auburn or some other major program, Dion makes a ton of sense. And I can promise you we're having coaches reach out to us that almost on a daily basis that want to see it for various reasons. They want to see it to see if it can succeed. They want to see it to just see how it unfolds. But a lot of people want to see it, and there's a lot of people who are becoming more and more believers every single day.
Mm-hmm.
John Brice, our guest, talking all things college athletics for a minute or so here longer. We know you're busy today, John.
Well, I'm going to add to that, John. I mean, where do you see Deion being a good fit? Because, you see Harsin come out with his quotes yesterday, talking about the administration should be aligned. I thought that was a nice way of having a parting shot. Maybe that's why things didn't go so well. I'm sure he had some part in that. But do you see Deion fitting into that culture there at Auburn?
I think he could, certainly, because
From all aspects, not just football, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And look, Brian Harsin was a lot classier than the Auburn administration, who didn't even name him in their release announcing they were changing the head football coach. I thought that was the epitome of petty and churlishness. It was just poor on Auburn's part. But I think Deion would be a fit there. Look, if you can recruit to Jackson, you can absolutely recruit to Auburn, which has some unbelievable facilities that they have continued to upgrade in recent years. Auburn, when it's been its best, has always recruited Florida well. Obviously, Deion is going to have the ability to recruit Florida well. He's already recruiting Metro Atlanta well. And look, here's the other thing I brought up on our podcast. You've already got Nick Saban and Deion Sanders doing Aflac commercials. Imagine Nick Saban and Deion Sanders doing Aflac commercials as the head coach at Alabama and Auburn, respectively. How gold would that be? Maybe Aflac adds, in addition to a duck and a goat, maybe Aflac adds a tiger and an elephant into their commercials. I don't know.
Ooh.
Well, real quick before we let you go, I know you have to go and do some TV stuff. Latest on A&M, and I know he's got a bucket load of money still coming to him, so I'm not expecting any changes there. But maybe makes an overview change of what he's doing there, and then Jimbo and what he's doing, because they're getting recruits. So obviously now it's about development and play calling and everything else. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I think we'll see a very active offseason for A&M players in the transfer portal, just to be brutally honest with you. I think they'll lose key players at a number of positions. I think they'll lose players at the quarterback position for sure. And I think Jimbo Fisher has to take a long, hard look in the mirror and not only evaluate what he's doing, but evaluate if he's listening to the right people or if he's listening to anyone at all.
Whoa. John, thank you, man. Great catching up with you at John D. Brice 1, and, of course, the great football scoop for all the latest on college football and more. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. John Brice.
Yeah, a lot of people saying Prime should be. I don't like the fit there.
At
Because
Auburn?
my first, not necessarily that, anybody that if, I'm thinking about what Harsin said. Like, if you're not aligned together, then I don't know if anybody's going to survive that job. Like, what did Auburn learn about the last two hires that they're giving $40-50 million to, or whatever it is, to walk away? So I would be concerned for that being, especially Prime at a major program now, his first major program, that you want to make sure everything's aligned. If not, then if I'm looking at the hire, I'm like, I probably want to bring somebody in here with experience at this level or in the SEC who knows how to take down these guys if I want to have instant success as an AD. So I'm looking first at Lane Kiffin. That's where I'm going to go, if the people he named, as well as Freeze, over Deion, if it's me personally. And I'm the AD looking at the situation at hand. They're not starting from the bottom. I mean, this is the SEC, so he can get that thing turned around really quick. And I want somebody who has some experience taking down I'm in Alabama, Nick Saban. And those two guys have done it.
Yep.
So I think, yeah. So as much as I like what Prime has done, I don't think he would be my leading candidate there.
Florida State?
Oh, he would be number one.
Yeah.
They botched that. They should have hired him. I mean, Norvell, how's he doing now? I mean, it looks like he's kind of made a little bit of a run here at the end. But, so they made a mistake. But they didn't know what they had. I mean, he'd only coached in high school at the time. He was the head coach. But we all know college is a little bit different. And he's done it, at HBCU, which is probably one of the toughest places in the country to recruit, and with not having all those resources. So, man, he's done an outstanding job. They actually, I think they're undefeated. Yeah, so
it's hosted game day.
Yeah, they hosted game day. Would they ever came there if it was Prime? Was it?
No.
Even if they were undefeated? No.
JB says in the Zone TV chat, he ain't even been there 5 years yet. He's not leaving his sons.
And people need to stop saying he's not going to leave his sons. Guess what? You
His
can
sons
transfer
can go with him.
the next year. Half the team can go with him if they want to.
Yep.
You can transfer now, and you don't have to sit out.
You don't think he'd take his quarterback? Hey, man,
Guarantee he's taking the Hunter, the cornerback.
Get in the car. Come on.
Or whatever the kid. What was the kid's name? The number one cornerback in the country. You know.
Oh, anybody he wants is going with it. They can transfer without penalty.
Yeah, so that they're going to
Don't say that. They can go with it.
Depending on what's the situation where he's going. If he's already got a proven guy, I think that's going to be a tough sell. But, and somebody may stay off of his staff and become the head coach there.
Well, I have stood in the room and on the field. I have been to practice every day. I have watched Hugh Freeze take a team that had no business winning games and win 10 games with him. I watched it. I watched him do it. I watched a bunch of dudes who were losing games with a minute left, 30 seconds left because they just didn't know how to close out anybody to closing out everybody. Their whole identity changed. I've seen it. Now, I know there's some baggage that comes with him, but that's been a few years in the rearview mirror now.
Everybody deserves a second shot.
I mean, that dude, if I was an AD, I'm on the record. I would hire him again. If I was trying
so he's making, now he got to raise it at Liberty. He's making $5 million a year.
Yep.
So
$5 million at Liberty.
At Liberty.
That's amazing.
It's going to take how much you think to get him to Ole Miss? 7, 8? What's the going rate? I mean, Nick
does Mel Tucker make 9?
Yeah, so that he may be looking at it like that. Hey, I got to get more than Tucker. You got to put me at 9. So almost double his salary. He can't say
$5 million even.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna go that high. I may give him 7. Depends on how bad you want him.
How bad do you want him? How bad you want to win, Auburn? How bad do you want to win? And if you're Lane Kiffin, you could name your price. I want 9. I want 9. I want what Mel Tucker's making. You want me to come down there, leave the Grove and leave Ole Miss, bring Juice Kiffin, my dog, with me? Hey, man.
Could you ever win a title at Ole Miss, do you think?
Well, history says no. History says no.
But there's some part of me, and I think it's just me, I like that has happened because whatever I do from here on out is going to be a success.
Yeah.
So I think I can recruit here. I can get some of the best.
Oh, his whole thing is transfer to the SIP. He has like sweatshirts that say that.
Yep.
And if anybody could do it there, I think it's him.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of the transfer portal, as much as some of you love it and some of you hate it, and NIL, you could set up shop anywhere with the right NIL deals and getting the right guys to transfer there. You can compete with anybody. I mean, what are they, 11 in the CFP rankings right now? Is that right, Lucas? Is Ole Miss 11?
Yeah, they somewhere around.
Double check.
And also think about this. Prime's personality in Auburn. A lot of people's like, oh, that's going to be great. I don't know. I'm talking about with administrators. I ain't talking about to the public. There's a whole bunch that comes with that now.
He's not an Auburn man.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm getting at. See,
Oh, that's a real thing.
yeah, it's a real thing.
And the same would go for Hugh Freeze, right?
You're not an Auburn guy.
No. I don't think so. And that's not a shot at Dion. Hugh has beaten Nick Saban again and again.
Oh, I'm not talking about football.
Yeah.
I'm talking about being an Auburn man.
Oh, yeah, well, he's not an Auburn man, that's for sure. He's a Mississippi man.
That's what I said. See, I'm real big on also, this is my coach. Unless he's super elite, which these guys are, where do you start making exception if he fits what we want here? Just as a head coach, embodies him, like who he is. So I think that plays a part to me in having success and fitting in our culture. They talk about the players fitting the culture. Well, to me, I want my head coach to fit in the culture of the university and what we're selling. Yeah, and that would be big for me. Now, that may not sometimes get you the best. You're in the SEC, so there's going to be, some great candidates just because of it's in the SEC and they're going to be paying.
Part of me just wants them to hire Freeze, too, because then I could say Auburn has hired 3 straight Arkansas State coaches.
Oh, former Arkansas.
That's
State,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Malzahn, Harsin, and Freeze. They're running out of guys, though, after that. All right, we're running out of time. We'll come back. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Tennessee Vols, #1 college football playoff rankings. There are some amazing stats and facts that go with this, and I'll get into some of these next. And if you're a Vol fan, you want to sound off on it, 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. Happy hump day to you. Vols, number one in the college football playoff rankings, the initial group of rankings for this year. Ball boy in Nashville is a Vols fan, and he is on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. So let's talk to Ball Boy here about all this stuff. What's going on, Mr. Ball or Boy?
Ball boy.
Yes.
Hey, well, I adopted the name 20 years ago. Now I ought to be Ball Old Man, but I'm glad before I got to be too old that we got a number one ranking. I never would have figured it. And by the way, before I forget, you guys are both two of the nicest fellows on and off air. I've met you both briefly years ago, and I just wanted to tell you what a great job you do in the community and on the air.
Appreciate that.
And
Very nice.
Blaine,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Blaine specifically, how does Jalen Hyde get so open? I'm liking it.
That's what happens when you got great speed, great coaching, and then people say, I don't want to get on the screen on national TV that I got toasted. So they just, I mean, it is amazing. That was one of my biggest deals. Like, how does he keep getting wide open? Like, they're not like doubling him at some point in time. Like, hey, man, in certain situations, I haven't seen him do it yet. You know, that's more of a pro deal, but man, his speed is on the elite level playing. So first of all, I wouldn't even be letting him run freely like that. I'm sure there's times you have no choice, but I haven't seen anybody actually have a chance to even put their hands on him as far as jamming him at the line because he's, you know, the slot guy. He's in motion. He's off the ball. So that's where it starts. You know, whenever you're going to get somebody fast like that, you got to get them down to your speed. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet, which is kind of interesting. I'm interested to see how Georgia's plan of attack because what I've understand, you know, talking to different people that follow Georgia is that they may not have the front that they had last year, but their secondary is really good. And I'm going, oh, well, that's interesting. So what's really good mean? Like against Tennessee's passing, you haven't gotten tired yet. You know, with no, like, elite pass rushers, kind of like a group of guys who are all really good. Naturally, it's Georgia, so they're really good. But so I'm interested in this matchup and who wins that kind of battle. Is this kind of a slow play game where, you know, and I think Bennett and crew at Georgia can kind of play anyway, but if they get behind by 14 or so points, I think they then lose. The odds are against them. There were a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. I can't remember that happened in the UT Kentucky game. This is how Tennessee gets teams. All right. They had, I thought, was a missed pass interference call that they called on Kentucky. That cost them. They scored a touchdown there. Drop deep ball. I want to say his name was Robinson, number 9. That would have got him a first down and a chunk of yardage. And then there was another play in there. And each of these times, Tennessee gets the ball and drives right down and scores, where there was a big play or was, accumulation of plays. And that's then, boom, now you're behind 21 points. And that's how you lose to them. So either you're going to ball control or you're going to have to match them, which Alabama tried to do since they knew their defense couldn't shut them down. And because it also hurts their D-line because – you can't rotate players in, and they get tired, and the offensive line is used to it, and then they're also able to run the ball on you. And so they put you out there with these wide splits one-on-one, and most colleges don't have that many one-on-one guys. Like, you know, we're talking about 4 guys. So eventually you get matched up on a safety or someone, or you find the weak link, and then you keep going at them. And so that's the difference between college and pro, though. That's why this often – everybody out there, they got 4 DBs that can cover. They got we go just mano. We got guys that can rush too. So that's why. And then you don't have the hash marks where they set the ball up different than the NFL from college. So I think it could work to a certain extent, but I don't think it would be successful long term. And maybe he could probably be 500. It'd be interesting to see what he would do to adapt because you can go at different paces. When you're talking about the hurry up, and maybe he would do some things a little bit differently than he's doing in college to give him an advantage again. But ultimately, you have the best versus the best. So that would be interesting now. So, yeah, it's exciting, though. I mean, Hyde may be in the Heisman conversation. He didn't even mention him there with John Brice. But it's an exciting time for Tennessee. They've waited a long time to get to this point, and Yeah, am I excited that they're number one? But at the end of the day, now they've gotten to this point, the real cue is you want to be number one at the end now. Now that you see that you have a team capable of winning the national championship this year, they're in that conversation and they can be anybody on any given day. And I'm getting real close to picking them over Georgia. And I thought I would never say that. And I'm not even talking about now. I'm talking about before the season. I said they'd be 10-2,
Right.
with a possibility of
You
beating
did.
Alabama.
Yeah.
And I didn't think they could beat Georgia. Right now, I'm wavering back and forth like a teeter-totter. I really don't know. I have to go watch Georgia some more just to make me feel comfortable on where I stand with this one. So I'm gonna make sure I do that. But this is gonna be a good one. If Tennessee gets up, silence the crowd, and they get up by 14, it's gonna be a different kind of race here.
I have a stat for you when we come back about how many teams have ever been ranked number one in the college football playoff rankings. I was surprised, and then I wasn't, and then I was again when I thought about how long and how many. Here's one thing for you. I'll tease you for this. This is the Vols' first appearance in the playoff rankings since they were number 21 in 2016, the final edition on December 4th of 2016. It's their seventh appearance in the rankings since it started in 2014, but the highest since 2016. I got more when we come back. A couple other Vol stats involving the CFP, some mind-blowing stuff. Come on back.
Cool.
Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Yeah, that woo is because it's all downhill from here. We're halfway through the week show. We're at the nexus of the sports talk universe. And here we are. We're way past the nexus of the college football universe.
No, we're number one.
Number one, the Tennessee Vols. Number
Lucas.
one. Lucas Panzica is just, he can't stop smiling today.
Yeah.
And all the Vol fans that I bumped into, these 8-0 Vols, 2 victories over current top 10 teams in the playoff, which LSU, how about them at number 10 in the playoff? And Tennessee went to LSU and just smashed them. That's a top 10 team. I mean, they outshot Alabama, which was something in its own right, but they left no doubt at LSU. Vols' first appearance in the playoff rankings since being number 21 in 2016. They are, and I had this in my notes, and this is also on some notes from UT. It's 21 months from when Josh Heupel took over a program that had gone 3-7. And somebody's thinking 10, COVID year. Remember, they played 10 games. It's the first time Tennessee has been number one in any poll since after the 1998 season when they were number one.
Ooh.
They're off to their first 8-0 start since 1998. Now, here you go. This was like when, was it you, Lucas, who looked up how many people have ever played in the NBA total? And it was just like 2,000 people or something.
No, Blaine was talking about that.
Remember that day that it came up and it's like 2,000 people?
It wasn't that many.
In
I
the
remember,
history of the league.
You know what, man? I listened to a podcast probably years ago or a couple years ago, and I think it was Kyrie Irving. I think I heard talk about how many people who played in the NBA in history. And I was stunned when I heard the number. It was still in the thousands. I was like, wow, dang, that's an elite group. When you think of football and something, well, I guess
Almost 5,000.
Okay.
How many?
Almost 5,000.
5,000. Yeah.
And
I was stunned. I think he said 4,900 and something at the time.
Yeah. Like 4,000 and something.
I was like, what?
And the league's been around for a long, like 75 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah, it
here
was
you go.
founded in 46.
So here you go. This was the thing. I mean, you think about, okay, since they've been doing this, Clemson and Alabama are always good. Okay. But surely Ohio State's always good. And you start thinking, like, how many? This blew my mind. The Vols are the 7th team in history to hold the number 1 CFP ranking. They joined Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, and Mississippi State.
What?
The Vols joined Mississippi State as the only 2 teams to start a season unranked and climb to number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. That
Yeah.
was during the DAC era, right? They were 1, and Ole Miss was. Remember when that was like
That was preseason ranking, right? Or no?
No, they were number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. So I have a Sports Illustrated somewhere in one of my boxes of Sports Illustrateds where they were they 1 versus 2 or what? I mean, like both the teams in Mississippi were
They were top 3.
top 3.
Like, actually, that was the first, right? I think that was the
2014.
right.
Yeah.
Mississippi
first
State
ranking.
was number 1. So number 1 Mississippi State with Dak Prescott went to number 5 Alabama in Tuscaloosa and got beat pretty bad.
They got smoked. Yeah.
7 teams. 2014 is now, 8 years ago? I mean, 7 teams have ever held this. And I know it's not till the end of the year, and it is what it is, but that's crazy. And then, I mean, for anybody who doubts what the SEC is, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Mississippi State, five of the teams who've been Clemson and Ohio State, that's it. That's the other 2.
I just want to hear from Lucas on how he feels just getting the number 1 ranking as a, grown up in the Vol, going to UT. I mean, as a fan, are you trying to pump the brakes? Are you super excited? I mean, like, give us, where you at on your feelings.
No, you have to enjoy this moment because there was no build up to this. Like, this is not year 5. Okay, he's got his recruits in there. It's his team. Now it's time to take this step and to compete for an SEC East title and an SEC champion. Like, the best case scenario was 10-2 coming into the year.
Which Blaine said
Blaine predicted
repeatedly.
it. Blaine predicted it for months. But that was even the most optimistic Tennessee fans were saying 10-2. And if you told anybody in July, no, 11-1. I mean, it's going to be looking like 11-1. They're going to be number 1. Like, no, stop. Get out of here. That's impossible. So it's just how sudden it is. It's like you snap your fingers, and there they are at the top of the college football playoff ranking as a actual national championship contender. Like, it's not fathomable that this could happen a year and a half into the Heupel era.
What gave me hope, though, after I saw what they did to Alabama last year at Alabama, into the fourth quarter, it was back and forth. Then he kind of fell off there. But, yeah, that made dang, Nick Saban can't even come up with a recipe to stop this offense. Then who can? Because they got more dudes than anybody, and Georgia did it because they had mano a mano. Alabama did last year. This year's team is good, but just not as talented as that team. Yeah, I mean, man, they Georgia. I don't know if they can exceed what they looked like last year. Man, my eyes got big when I saw them start hitting dudes from Tennessee. I was like, they are playing an NFL defense.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, like 7 to 10 dudes, like 11 guys got drafted. I'm like, man, they flying around, man. And then when they get there, they let loose on people. So I'm interested to see if this defense, how it looks compared to that last year's defense, because I don't think they're as good. But they supposedly supposed to have better DBs, so we shall see. We all know, no pass rush. I don't care what DB you are, even Deion Sanders.
And that's interesting you say that. You know how many sacks that Georgia has on the whole season?
10.
10. And 3 of those sacks are out because that's Nolan Smith who got ruled out for the rest of the season. So they have 7 sacks among the players that are left. And Hendon Hooker, give him a little time. He's
not carving people up. And so that lends to me telling me that Tennessee's got a great shot.
Me too.
They get no heat. This is basically what he's been doing. Nothing's going to change. They just got to find out how to scheme up against whatever defense they're doing. It was interesting listening to Hooker after the game. I love listening to some of the players, even Jalen Hyatt, when they do him in the interview in the presser. They said, well, our first series, everybody does something different that we hadn't seen on film. Mm-hmm. So we have to figure out what they're doing to us, and then we do our plan. That's in-game coaching right there by Heupel and crew. Every week. Because, they don't know what people are going to do because everybody has their own form of plan and, what they think they can do to stop it, as well as their personnel. So, yeah, I'm real interested. And the only way to me you got a shot is you got to have at least 4 guys that can cover mano a mano. In worst case, 3, but you get 4 because most of the time they got a tight end out there, whether it's Fant or Warren. So, yeah, this is going to be a real good one. Yeah. And then they're on the road. So I want to see them do it on the road without all that extra energy from being at home, and the crowd and everything else. That's why I was asking Brice how much the home field plays a part in this. So we shall see. But they got a great shot at taking them down. I mean, I cannot say it yet. I got to watch a little more before I get there. But I talked myself into it with the Alabama probably about this time. Yeah.
And we talk about this all the time. We're talking about the Titans and who they're playing. Like at some point during the rest of this week, we'll start talking about like, okay, Travis Kelce has to get this much attention. And then how else do you divide your attention? You can't cover everybody. Everybody can't get all the attention. How many people can you cover with Tennessee? Okay, we're going to try to cover Hyatt, which nobody's doing. Okay. What about Brew McCoy? That guy will get you. Mm-hmm. We ain't even been talking about Cedric. I mean, this is the guy. Okay, now what are you going to do with him since he's healthy again? And they're 25th in the nation in rushing the football. And they're 25th in the nation in running the ball.
Yeah. Tillman was on a pitch count against Kentucky, so he played limited snaps and apparently had been full go at practice in the 2 weeks leading up to the Kentucky game. So he'll be full go for the first time since he got hurt against Georgia.
I mean, pick your poison. Who gets your attention? And they can run the ball.
Yeah, because they spread everybody out.
Everybody's so spread out. And they create matchup nightmares. You were talking about Hyatt today when we came in. Just who winds up covering him sometimes. That guy's thinking, well, this is about to go poorly. And then it does.
I mean, they had a linebacker on one time at Kentucky. They matched him up and he had the flat, but he's like, I don't carry him. Matter of fact, first of all, I can't run with him. So why are we playing this? And then I thought the safety, I thought he was really egregiously bad on that play because I thought he was supposed to be over the top of both of those guys, and he just ran with the other guy. Like he just knew they were going to throw it. Meanwhile, the corner jumped it. So I don't know if it was the corner or the safety somebody was supposed to be back there. There's no way Kentucky staff was going to leave a linebacker on Hyatt on a wheel route from the flat to a vertical. No way. So I want to blame it on 14. He was the corner, Valentine.
Well, man, again, Vol fans, just enjoy it. And let's say you do lose to Georgia. Let's just say you do. Let's just say they lose the game. There's still all kinds of pathways to play in the playoff.
Oh, and still get in, no doubt.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have arguably the best win in the country right now. You beat Alabama. Mm-hmm. So if this game is close and then you win, so no matter what happens.
This is a win-win, is what you're saying.
All the possibilities are still there. You're not broken.
Let's go through the scenario. So let's say if you lose a close one to Georgia, then now you got Georgia, Alabama, and the SEC championship. And then that can open up the gate depending on who loses or wins for your shot. And I think it gets you in automatically because that happened to Alabama one year, didn't it? Mm-hmm. They didn't make it to the SEC championship. I remember that. And then I knew they were going to make it to the Final Four. They set it up perfectly because then they got to play the weaker seed, didn't they?
17. Yep. 2017. Well, Bama got in as the 4 seed.
Yeah. Yes, that's what the 4 seed.
It was 2017. Auburn routs Georgia at home. They beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl. They win the West. They lose to Georgia in the SEC championship. So Georgia goes, and a one-loss Bama goes. And then Bama ends up beating Georgia in the SEC title game with Tua Tagovailoa coming in at halftime and Devontae Smith on 4th and 26.
That's what it was.
That's still the happiest I've ever seen Nick Saban ever in my life.
Wow, that was
Jalen Hurts benched at halftime. So that was the ultimate insult to injury for Auburn fans who beat Georgia, beat Bama, and then still have to watch them play for a national championship.
That
could still happen. So to me, there is no pressure right now in Tennessee. They're going to go out there and just do what they do. The pressure's on Georgia.
100% it is.
Ooh,
and then I think Auburn went on to lose to UCF, and UCF crowns themselves national champs.
Oh, they got
a banner in their stadium.
The Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
What's the odds in this game before we go to break?
It's big, Georgia, right?
Minus
7?
8.5 in that range. I'll
Okay.
double check what the official line is, but it was started around 9, and money is just being flooded towards Tennessee.
Just on the ESPN app, I don't know whose odds they use. It says even 8.
I believe they use Caesar Sportsbook.
Okay, so there you go. It's an even 8 right now. We got to go because Jordan Dajani's going to join us next. We got to get into some NFL storylines, so we will do that next with Mr. CBS Sports himself right here on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. The Foo Fighters fighting some foo here. Jordan Dajani set to join us here in just a second. As soon as Lucas Panzica puts down the phone, we will pick up the phone as Jordan joins us. Jordan, have you come down from your college football playoff #1 ranking high yet as a graduate of the University of Tennessee? How are you feeling right now?
Wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoggy smoke on a rocky top. Ain't no telephone bills. What's going on, guys? I'm doing fantastic.
Man.
It's a joy to be sharing the airways with you once again on this fine Wednesday.
So, well, you're doing well then, is what this says. And by the way, you're nailing those notes. This is like an audition. I mean, dude, we can see Music Row out the window here because Blaine and me always open the shades and look out the windows. You may have just gotten yourself a record deal.
I sound a lot better on the phone as opposed to in front of a microphone first person, but I do appreciate that.
Man, that was some fantastic stuff. So, as excited as you are about that, how unexcited were you that the Titans made no trade deadline deals?
Oh, I was very unexcited. I mean, at the same time, though, I was 0% surprised that the Titans made no deals. But it's just kind of frustrating to me because the Titans are the best team in the AFC South, right? I think we've established that. I think the national media has probably accepted that. But my question is, are they satisfied just by that, just by being in the AFC South and getting that playoff berth? I know that if I was the GM, I would be trying to upgrade my wide receiving core. I would be looking at cornerback depth. I'd be trying to look around for offensive linemen, but I know that was kind of tough at the trade deadline. We didn't see many offensive linemen move. But at the same time, I just really wish that Tennessee could have made some moves because we got Derrick Henry still in his prime, clearly. Tannehill's been okay, but he'll be better with some upgrades at wide receiver. And the defense is playing fantastic ball right now. I think the Titans should act like they are a division leader and go out there and make some moves and try to improve this roster.
Jordan Dajani, our guest, CBS Sports, talking all things NFL.
Well, Jordan, seeing that it wasn't a lot of moves, but what groups would you have wanted the Titans to make moves?
Yeah, so first of all, this was the most dramatic trade deadline I think I've covered professionally. Usually there's a lot more bark than bite when it comes to the NFL trade deadline, but we saw a flurry of interesting moves. But when it comes to the Titans specifically, I mentioned the wide receiver position and I mentioned cornerback as well. Now, the cornerback play specifically has been better as of late, especially when you turn on the Texans film. But in terms of getting some young guys, maybe some depth pieces, I think could have bolstered the position group in general. One guy that I really liked was Greedy Williams from the Cleveland Browns. He was a former first-team All-SEC guy out of LSU. He was reportedly on the trade block because the Browns have some decent pieces there at cornerback. I thought adding him to the mix would have been kind of sexy. And then, of course, the wide receiver position. I don't think I need to sell any listeners out there that the Titans would benefit from adding another wide receiver. I get that they got Conley, but, I mean, I would have at least inquired about Chase Claypool, Elijah Moore, anyone like that, even Will Fuller, who's still a free agent. I just would have been looking to make another addition at wide receiver for Tennessee.
Well, what trade did you like or was the biggest one that you thought looking at overall and who will have the biggest impact? That's why you don't see a lot of trades immediately.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. First of all, I love the Bears trading Roquan Smith to the Ravens. I think that this linebacker really could bolster a defense that's been pretty unimpressive through the early stages of the regular season. The Ravens, in my mind, are the favorite to win the AFC North, and I think this addition just furthers that. Another trade that really caught my eye that I disagreed with was the Lions trading star tight end T.J. Hawkinson to the rival Minnesota Vikings. I didn't get that. And on top of that, not only did they give Hawkinson to the Vikings, but they gave 2 fourth-rounders to the Vikings as well. That move surprised me a little bit because, listen, Hawkinson, I think a lot of people would agree he's probably a top 10 tight end in the NFL. He hasn't exactly set the world on fire, but with this new team, in this new offense, more consistent quarterback play, a first-year head coach who's an offensive mind who I like a lot in Kevin O'Connell, I think Hawkinson could be a very big addition for Minnesota.
Well, I was actually stunned also by the trade by the Colts of Hines, still is in the AFC. What's going on with the Colts at this point in time? What do you perceive what they're doing now? Have they turned the page and trying to see what they have with the backup quarterback, young quarterback, or are they still trying to compete to win?
I mean, it almost feels like damage control in a way. They already made the quarterback change, and now they fired the offensive coordinator, even though this is Frank Reich's offense. It seems like Jim Irsay is trying to do anything possible to try to get this offense in gear. And in regards to Nyheim Hines, he was obviously their wide receiving back. He was averaging a career low in terms of rushing yards per game. He was basically operating as a wide receiver. And before the year, Frank Reich actually told reporters that if you play fantasy football, I would go out there and draft Nyheim Hines. Well, people who listened to his advice were greatly disappointed because he hasn't had that much of an impact. I think he scored his first touchdown all year against Washington this past Sunday. But, you know, the move for the Bills is pretty interesting because they've been searching for a legitimate receiving back. They didn't really get that with Zach Moss. They didn't really get that with their draft pick, James Cook, at least through the early stages of his career. So adding Nyheim Hines fills a part of their offense that Buffalo's clearly been looking for.
Well, since we're talking about the Bills and the Jets play, and Josh Wilson, man, I mean, is Mr. Babyface going in the wrong direction as far as his development?
Yeah, Zach Wilson, man.
Exactly.
I got to say, I wasn't his biggest supporter coming out of the draft, and I think what we're seeing is him really struggle against pressure. I think that's the X factor. Get pressure on Zach Wilson, and he's going to make some very, very silly mistakes. He's completed only 9 of 47 attempts against pressure. He's been sacked more times than he's completed a pass under pressure. He's the only quarterback in the NFL to complete fewer than 30% of his passes under pressure, an NFL low 3 yards per attempt. And that's what New England did. And to be honest with you, I kind of foresaw this happening on Sunday because you lose Brice Hall, who was probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. The offense was completely running through the running backs. You lose your top player on offense like that, the quarterback, Zach Wilson, is going to have to shoulder more of the load. And if you look at the box scores and just watch the games in general over the past few weeks when the Jets embarked on that win streak, Zach Wilson was basically doing nothing. He was running the offense. He was being a distributor. He wasn't being asked to win games with his arm. On Sunday, he was asked to win the game with his arm, and he was unable to do so. So, yeah, I think he did take a step backwards, and I think a lot of eyes are going to be on him moving forward because, as I mentioned, he's going to have to shoulder more of the load with Brice Hall on IR.
Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Jordan, I don't know if you've seen the article that was written by Dan Pompei of The Athletic about Large Jeff. Have you had a chance to peep that today, or is this news?
So I haven't seen it, but I heard about what it entails.
Yes.
And yeah, I can comment on that quickly. I would have paid Jeffrey Simmons before the start of the year. In fact, I thought it was going to happen so much, I was trying to will it into existence that I actually already wrote the article for CBSSports.com a few months ago saying that the Titans had extended Jeffrey Simmons. It's somewhere in the system there. That's how prepared I was. Because the price tag is only going to go up. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best players in the league, in my opinion. He's a wrecking ball on the defensive line. He's a game changer. We've seen him basically win games a la the goal line stand against the Buffalo Bills. The price tag's only going to go up. And I don't know what listen, I'm not a capologist. I've mentioned that. I don't know much about the cap in terms of some of these experts like SpotTrack. But I don't understand what the Titans mean when they say, I don't know where the money's going to come from. I feel like other front offices in the NFL, maybe like the Eagles, they wouldn't say anything like that. They would make sure that they get their best players paid to keep them in the fold so that their franchise can reach long-term success.
Yeah, and it's funny, Blaney and I kept talking about this before the season, and there's like a 4-day window in July where they always write contracts, and at one point it was like the 23rd to the 27th or something of July when everybody gets a contract from the Titans. And my thing was this, like, we know who he is, and he only seems to be getting better. And the longer you wait, the price is going to go up. And our thing was, what if he goes out this year and has like 12 sacks? Then what are you going to do? Well, he's on pace for 13, according to this article. I mean, they did the math for me, but they're going to have to put him on layaway at this point.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's funny when you brought up that time frame of usually when Tennessee gets those extensions done. And that's actually when Jeffrey Simmons, I think, was having that weird hold-in that wasn't a hold-in, and that's when I wrote the article. But you're exactly right. I mean, you have to have the foresight to understand that Jeffrey Simmons, again, is a wrecking ball. He's the defensive MVP for Tennessee. If he has that career year, which he's on track for, that price tag is just going to go up. Before the year, maybe his camp was saying, okay, Aaron Donald money is Aaron Donald money, but let's get a contract that's right under that. Now he has an argument to try to get even closer to that Aaron Donald money, which is going to put more pressure on Tennessee's front office and certainly put more pressure on their wallet.
Jordan Dajani, he's got Aaron Donald money in his wallet from CBS Sports. He is at Jordan Dajani on Twitter. He joins us now.
Well, Jordan, I guess give us your observations on Titans versus Kansas City in Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I mean, the Titans defense, as I mentioned, is playing some of their best ball. I get that the Texans are the Texans, but I was still impressed just with what all three levels were doing. The Titans have defeated the Chiefs in 5 out of their last 6 matchups. Derrick Henry has run for over 150 yards in 2 of his 5 games against the Chiefs. He's obviously going to be the main facilitator on offense, but again, I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball here. These cornerbacks better be ready to match up against Kansas City weapons. I'm not talking about just Travis Kelce. I'm talking about Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling as well. Now, these 2 new additions at wide receiver got off to a slow start in the regular season, but they both went for over 100 yards against the San Francisco 49ers, who have a pretty solid defense, I think everybody would admit. But at the same time, I remember being in the press box when the Chiefs came to town a few years ago, and the Titans were really hurt by injuries in the secondary. Yet this pass rush is Patrick Mahomes, what was at that time his worst performance as a pro, because they were so good along the defensive front. That's going to be a key to victory against Kansas City. I'm looking at the line right now over at Caesars Sportsbook. Plus 12.5 sounds pretty good to me. I think I'll take the points with the Titans.
Well, let's keep the numbers flowing. Dan Snyder now has put the organization up for sale through Bank of America. Is this true?
It's a little complicated, yeah. So the Dan Snyder family has hired Bank of America Securities to consider, quote unquote, what we call potential transactions of the franchise, which does include finding new ownership. Now, this, of course, was reported by Forbes earlier today. Dan Snyder bought out all minority stakes in the team last year, giving his family 100% ownership. So it's interesting because it's not known yet if Dan Snyder is looking to sell the entire franchise and step away, or if he's looking out to divvy portions to minority stakeholders, which could be very possible as well. I think I'm not an expert when it comes to owning NFL franchises and what exactly that entails, but also I think that it could be a cash influx for the new stadium that Washington has been trying to build for years now. And if you remember that ESPN report that came out, a few weeks ago now, one owner said in that ESPN report that if Dan Snyder could get this new stadium built, this whole drama that's been surrounding him, a new stadium could be the heavy Febreze spray that would cover up the gross odor emanating from the Commanders franchise right now. So I think getting a stadium is really important to Dan Snyder. That, or he is actually considered selling the franchise. I mean, right now in D.C., they're already planning parades, but I'm saying not just yet. I'm not ready to celebrate just yet. We need to see exactly what's going on here.
Well, both of these teams aren't celebrating because it's not last year or the year before, and that is the Rams versus the Bucks. Do you think either one of these teams can, get some wins and get back into the playoff hunt?
Yeah, it's just kind of a gross matchup, but I think it's one that we all should be paying attention to because, as you mentioned, these are 2 contenders from last year who still have some pieces, and they have the wherewithal to at least get back on the right track and try to grab a playoff spot. When you ask me which one of these 2 teams is more likely to make the postseason, I have a hard time not leaning towards the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just because of the division they reside in. The Atlanta Falcons are currently leading the division, I believe. They're an interesting team. We all love the Fighting Arthur Smiths. But at the same time, the Buccaneers have a wide receiving core that's more impressive. Tom Brady's still obviously a pretty decent quarterback, and a defense on paper that at least is fairly stout compared to somebody like the New Orleans Saints or the Atlanta Falcons or Carolina Panthers. So the Buccaneers are not out of it just yet. I know that Tom Brady's going through some off-field drama right now. Who knows? Maybe that's something that could provide a spark within him. I know he's not going down without a fight in terms of his last few years of his NFL career. So, in my opinion, the Buccaneers are very live.
There you have it. Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
I just think of him going home to that 32,000 square foot mansion by himself and eating like a hungry man dinner out of the microwave. You know, that's just sad.
Yeah, he's wondering where AB's at.
That's just sad, man. All right. Were you happy or sad with Malik Willis' first start in the NFL?
You know, it seemed like he only had 12 or 13 legitimate dropbacks. So that's too small of a sample size for me to really say anything. I thought it was fascinating that he didn't attempt a pass in the entire third quarter. So way too small of a sample size. I mean, he still has to work on handling pressure, going through his progression, trying to hit his open wide receivers. So, you know, some good, some bad, but we just didn't see enough for me to really come to a general conclusion in terms of his first start.
All right, you nailed your last week's picks. If you don't promote it, no one will. I saw you tweeting about that. What are you on for this week, like really on?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I believe we have 10 CBS Sports analysts pick every single NFL game against the spread. I believe right now I'm number one in the company at 69, 53, and 1.
Nice.
I've gone 13 and 2 on my top 5 picks over the past 3 weeks. So I'm on an absolute heater, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to brag because there's no way I can maintain this pace. I'll give you a couple games. I'm looking at the Eagles right now at -14. I think it's hard not to lay the number with this team because I think that the Texans are dealing with some internal drama. Davis Mills doesn't look like the franchise quarterback. Some believe he was. Brandon Cooks is mad that he's still a member of the franchise, while the Eagles are undefeated and absolutely rolling. In fact, the whole city of Philadelphia is rolling right now. The MLS team's in the cup. They're baseball teams in the World Series. I'm looking at Philly to cover that 14 number. They might be an eligible teaser option as well. In terms of another game against the spread, I haven't exactly written the column yet. It comes out Friday morning. But one landing spot I'm looking at is the Minnesota Vikings traveling to the Washington Commanders. I love Taylor Heineke. He's got some black magic, no doubt about it. But this is a revenge spot for Kirk Cousins, and he gets to play in the daytime, not the nighttime. So that means he's very live to win the game. He's not very good in prime time, as you guys know. Laying 3.5 with the Minnesota Vikings, a very hot Minnesota Vikings team that has their defense improving, is a spot that I'm looking to attack as well.
Yeah, low-key ought to be a fun game. Jordan Dajani, CBS Sports. We will see you next week, my friend. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hopefully you can stay on this heater and people can keep following you and just like building up their college funds as we speak.
I hope so. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Jordan and his crew at CBS Sports, fantastic work. That should be one of your first stops every day to read, all their coverage, but they really cover the NFL great, Jordan. And all those guys are. When we come back, the article about Big Jeff, written by The Athletic, he talks contract stuff. We only talked about this a minute earlier. If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. If not, you need to stick around and hear this quote about contract stuff. That's coming up next.
Yeah, just getting back into it. Slowly working into it with the ankle and see where I'm at day by day, just moving around and getting ready to go.
Overall, the pain kind of going away a little bit, or you feel like it's still?
Pain's going to be there. That's just kind of where we're at with it. Unfortunately, with the nature of the injury, it kind of is there. So just going to be a matter of if I can do my job or if I can't.
That's Ryan Tannehill from earlier today. He did go out and do some stuff at practice. They said he would, and then he said that he would, and he said the pain's going to be there. It's just, can I do my job? He got asked several different ways about it, and he's like, well, can I protect myself? Can I execute the plays I need to execute? That's what we got to find out this week. So it's Wednesday. Got until Sunday night to figure it out. So, Blaine, a little bit of extra time. It's a night game. He could take one of your battery-powered stem machines on the plane and use it. And
I'm sure they got something
take
better,
it to
but
the
I'm sure it's
hotel
still
room
better.
and just stem it all day and ice it.
Well, yeah, him and Elijah Molden, I think, have returned to practice from injured reserve. But,
yes, sir.
Naturally, the quarterback's the most important position. So I think it's a positive in that, hey, he's practicing early in the week. We'll see how his body responds after today when he comes back in there tomorrow, see if he's back out there again. So hopefully all signs points to hopefully he's playing, right? I mean, nothing against Malik Willis, but we can't do that again. If somebody really goes watch the film, even though, what did he throw the ball, 14 times? 10. Yeah, the dudes was open. Bro, they was open. And he would not let that thing go.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, is it glued to his hand? Throw the freaking ball, bro. Come on, man. Dudes was open. I'm not going to say every time, but there was some time. You're like, why did he pump fake right there? The guy's wide open. You really go do your homework. I don't know. He got a long way to go.
Even at the Chig play where Chig was just running by himself and it took him a while to decide to throw it, and then he threw it way over Chig's head. Yeah,
come on. I was just like, really? You can see that on TV. Like, well, dang, he was open for a long time. What were you looking at? Looked like you were looking dead at him. Like, that's why I said the game was moving too fast for him, man. A lot of things are going on when you're first NFL star quarterback. You feel all this pressure and this wave of people coming at you at at warp speed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. People, he has no idea what the warp speed of regular season compared to some old freaking preseason. Where was all that spadazzle and running and going around in circles and then run 50 yards? I try to tell you that was not going to happen. It was not. This is not Little League, and this is not college. You're not at Liberty.
And not the preseason even, where there's some dudes who are like selling insurance now in rural Indiana.
Right.
That would have been chasing it.
It was a learning experience for him, and that I don't think we want to experience anytime soon.
We want to experience Big Jeff getting a contract sometime soon, but there's an article that came out today on The Athletic. Dan Pompei wrote it. It wasn't Joe Rexrode or one of the typical Titans writers. By the way, Joe does a fantastic job. So I was like, Dan Pompei, what's Big Jeff? What? And so I started looking at this, and it's a long article. It talks about his future and his past, and I know you got to pay for The Athletic to get it. So if you're a subscriber, if not, have some, I don't know.
You can just listen to you. You about to tell them what it said.
Find a way to read it. But this is the quote that's getting all the attention. So we'll just read this from the article. Simmons says the Titans discussed his future with him in the offseason. Here is the quote from Big Jeff. This is all we got. There's no more context, but this is what the quote is. This is what we're going on. It was, we want you to be here, but we don't know exactly when we will be able to pay you, he says. The Titans were like, we don't know if we're going to be able to offer you what you think you are worth. We want to pay you, but we don't know where it's going to come from. That's basically what it was, not an offer. All that in quotes. Said he thought about holding out, but ultimately decided against it.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't, because he just needs to hold that back till next year. Because what it's telling you is we love to keep you, but man, this price is getting so out of hand. I don't even know if we can afford you. Hey, man, hats off to them for being honest. I wouldn't have said that at all. I would have said, hey, we're going to try to work on getting something done, and hopefully we'll come to an agreeable number. In my mind, I'd be like, man, that number going to be high, and I don't know if we can go that high. So, yeah, I would have been playing that card. I wouldn't do anything to get Big Jeff all out of whack. Nah, and I'm not talking about him personally. I'm talking about superstar status type player. This is what you do. He's, in my mind, outside of Derrick Henry, the most important piece on the team, period. And when you got one of those guys, you don't let him skate away. You got to give so to me, the question is, how much do you want to pay him yearly? I mean, at this point in time, let's just use an easy number from 20 to 25 million for over 4 or 5 years. You'll get all of that back because you can hold his rights for 3 more, really, this year, next year, and then you can franchise him again. So, yeah, you can hold him for 3 years, but that's going to hit your cap even harder.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to know where they're going to get the money from, I don't know.
And the number that you give him next year, when you do this thing, you give him a low cap number in the first year. I know the Titans are hurting with cap space.
You do sign a bonus, yeah.
Yeah, so the first year is not the heavy year, but I would think if they don't start the conversation with 4 for $100, that Big Jeff's like, sorry, man, I can't hear what you're saying.
Watch this, I'm about to get you. It's because they said they don't know if they can afford it because they got to do some stuff with the stadium. I have no idea. I don't, this is way over my pay grade, man. So I'm just like, I can't be. They're talking about we don't know if we have enough to pay you. Or is it you're really saying we don't know if we want to pay you that? See, it can go many different directions.
You can't let that dude walk, man. You can't. You can't. What you do and how you play games, you got to have him.
I'm going to just say this. There's going to be hard to find another player coming out of the draft to have that kind of impact that you got him for cheap. And history shows us that he hadn't signed a lot of the first rounders back.
None of them. None. Need to sign this one.
He came real close. He signed a Dory and then took it back.
You can't do that anymore. All right, we can't take this back. We got to go. 3HL's got you next, and we will see you tomorrow. We'll talk about this some more, I promise you.
Yeah. In the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.